Hi there, and thank you for coming to my talk. My name is Kumar, and we're building a platform called AltLayer, which allows people to deploy application-specific rollups. So if you are building something like games, and you want a very customized infrastructure on which you would want to host that fully on-chain game, we can help you with the infrastructure side. And so I'm going to tell you why AltLayer makes sense and the kind of rollups that we offer that makes sense for on-chain and fully on-chain game developers. And I'll give you some examples of fully on-chain games, and there's a game that we have been building and you can play towards the end of the talk. So general purpose chains are great. We all love Ethereum, Arbitrum, Optimism and all that because they offer developers a very easy to use infrastructure, because if you're a game developer or more generally an application developer, all you need to do is to write your contract, build a front end, and then deploy your contracts, and you do not have to worry about who's going to run my infrastructure, basically Ethereum. How am I going to incentivize people to go and run this network? You don't have to worry anything about that, and you focus on game development, writing contract, and building a front end. However, over time we have seen that in many cases the infrastructure is not able to support the throughput requirements that fully on-chain games need, and in some cases fully on-chain games actually need a lot of customization. That's very hard to do if you are on a shared block space. And so this is why we started working on application-specific rollups, because they make huge sense for people building games, particularly on-chain games. We started even before OP Stack was actually a thing, and we didn't have any SDKs at that point to build and launch rollups. So we had to build an optimistic rollup implementation from scratch. But we are in the process of integrating other SDKs now. So if you wanted to have an OP Stack based rollup for your specific application, you want to customize it, you could do that. And for that, we have built a dashboard that's hosted on dashboard.all technology. You can go and check that out. And basically, it provides application developers a framework where they could go and click a few buttons and customize different systems for that infrastructure. So you could say if you wanted to have, let's say, your own token, then you could very easily deploy that. You could customize. By the way, people building fully on-chain games, and they have been talking to us, and we realized that many of these games are quite complex in the sense that it requires quite a bit of gas if you run on-chain, and therefore in some cases they actually want to be able to customize the block gas limit. In some cases, it takes about 40 million gas for just one single transaction, so you can't even run on certain infrastructure today. So if you wanted some sort of flexibility, again, you can't blow your block gas limit beyond a certain limit, but at least it gives you some flexibility on what you can do with fully on application-specific infrastructure. And the good thing is that you don't have to worry about the infrastructure. Everything is managed by us, so it's being offered as a managed service. So what are the benefits of using something like AltLayer's rollup as service platform? One thing is it allows people to experiment and innovate quite quickly. So imagine you're building a game and you have this huge block gas limit requirement. You can't do that, but you need some place where you can go and experiment and play your games. So it allows you to kind of go fast in terms of fast deployment. It will have multi-chain support, and the really cool thing is these two parts. One is you do not have to think about, who's going to run my RPC endpoint? I have to go and find my Explorer and all that. Everything gets taken care of. And this way, it allows you as a developer to go and focus on building a fun and engaging game and do not waste time on any of the tertiary infrastructure. There are two types of rollups that we offer today. One is this classical persistent rollup. So it's a rollup that stays there forever, and you can consider this like Optimism, but for your specific application. So something like an instance of OP Stack or Arbitrum's Orbit. The really interesting bit is this one, which is the ephemeral rollup. So these are rollups that are designed to last for a very short period of time. And by meaning, when I say very short, it can vary between, let's say, 10 minutes to up to a few months. But it's not designed to stay there forever. And why it's interesting, because imagine you are building a game like Dark Forest, but it kind of runs in rounds, right? So you start a community round, you play for a while, and then you don't need that instance anymore of Dark Forest. And so what you do is you'd spin up a rollup, and so this ephemeral rollup, and you'd host your game on that rollup and to do a tournament or a competition, whatever. And people play on that. By the way, this is an application-specific thing, so you can customize in all sorts of ways. You're hosting that game on that rollup. When you feel like you're done with it, everyone is, the competition and the tournament is done, then you take down that that rollup. So when you take that rollup, all the infrastructure, for example, your sequencers, your RPC endpoints, everything basically gets taken down and gets freed. And if you had any assets on that rollup, because I don't know, it was kind of pay to earn, and if you found a planet, new planet, dark forest, you get some tokens or NFTs, you could then send it back to a base chain, for example, Ethereum. So it basically gives you all the benefits of an app chain app rollup, but once the whole thing gets taken down, you kind of get all the benefits of a general purpose chain like Ethereum. So you can enjoy the liquidity benefits that OpenSea, for example, gives you. So here's an example of how you could use it, for example, for NFT mint events, right? So imagine you want to do a drop of NFTs and you do not want to kind of create a gas war like situation on Ethereum or other chains. You kind of push it back and outside on an ephemeral rollup, you host your mint event on that rollup. So you sell your, you either drop your NFTs or you sell your NFTs. And once you have sold, you bring back all the assets back to Ethereum. And users don't have to do it. So the protocol takes care of that. So if you had a collection of 1,000 items, 1,000 NFTs on the rollup, they all get transferred back to Ethereum or any chain for that matter. So as I said, this is ideal for applications that drive a lot of transaction volume in a short span of time. And you don't need after that. It's kind of like AWS model of some sort where during the Christmas time, AWS has to scale up the infrastructure because they need a lot of handle the traffic, and when that period goes, sort of ends, they kind of scale it down. All we are saying is now you can scale it down to 0. That's the idea. I think I'll skip this one I told already. So assets go back to L1, so you enjoy all the benefits of liquidity. It's a game dedicated block space, so you basically own the space, and you will have familiar user experience. So we have WASM and EVM, so you can pick and decide which one. And by the way, if you wanted to have, let's say, a custom precompile for a fancy game logic, you could do that because it's your rollup. Yeah, this is a persistent rollup, is the classical one. Consider it as an instance of optimism or Arbitrum running for you. Now we're transitioning towards what we call AltLayer 2.0 because it's good for experimentation, so you want to have your rollup and do that. But sometimes people say, oh, I don't want you as the RAS provider to run my sequencers, I want the community to run it. And that's kind of the idea towards AltLayer 2.0, where if you could come to us and you say, I want to have 5 sequencers, but I want them to be run by my game studio partners, that will be possible. It will become a much more permissionless and open system. So this is what AltLayer, and by the way, almost every single RAS provider operates in this model today. So you have this either SDK like OP Stack, or you have a dashboard, which is kind of like a wrapper on top of the SDK. While the second one is more decentralized, where you could come and have the same experience, except that behind the scenes, there's an entire network and protocol that takes care of decentralizing your sequencer component. We have been testing and experimenting with FlashLayer in different ways, and some of the partners have been working with us. So we have done several mint events, and many of them all of them were actually very successful, and many of them were actually sold out within 10-20 seconds. We also did an event where in Malaysia, where basically there was this football match happening between a local Malaysian team and a visiting German team, and it was one of those matches that happened right after COVID. So the organizers wanted to bring crowd to the stadium and encourage them. So they wanted to issue some sort of a POAP style NFT, but to a really large crowd. So you imagine 50,000 people in the stadium. And so we hosted that on a FlashLayer. Once all the POAPs were collected, we took down the entire infrastructure. We hosted, as I said earlier, we hosted Dark Forest several times in the past, and every single time we did it, we had about 250,000 transactions on a daily basis. And at that time, by the way, the first time we hosted that, it was about a year ago, and at that time, this was about 60% of the transaction volume that Optimism was receiving on a daily basis, and about 90% of Arbitrum. So you could imagine having such an application that drives a ton of transaction volume, but you can't host it on a general purpose chain. We have been sort of building and working together with all sorts of games, and we're integrating with different service providers. So if you, for example, want to have, let's say, OP Stack or RollKit from Celestia, you could also do that. So you could have a sovereign rollup instance for your game if you wanted to have that. We are working closely with a partner called Double Jump Tokyo. One is it's a gaming company, game studio based out of Japan, and they have some of the IPs, very classical IPs like Pac-Man under them, and they're trying to revive some of those old school games and see what sort of components they could put on blockchain. And the idea for us to kind of understand the needs and the requirements from some of these game developers and help them to implement that. To end off my presentation, this is a game that many people might know. It's a game called 2048. I think it was designed about 10 years ago by an Italian developer. And it works, for those who don't know, it's a very simple game. You have this tile which is 4 by 4, and you can make 4 moves, so top, down, left, and right. And when you do that, the slides move in that direction. And when you have, let's say, two cells that are like next to each other and they have the same number, they add up. So if I it's just a JPEG, I can show you, but basically if I press down, this 2 and 2 will become 4. And the idea of the game is, or the target is, that you need to reach 2048 towards in one of the cells at least. But you can keep on going higher. So if you want to play this game, you can scan the QR code, and you can. And by the way, this is actually hosted on one of our Rollups today, so you can feel and check the experience of making such moves. And by the way, every single move that you're making, so top, left, and top, down, and left and right, that's actually an on-chain transaction. So basically, literally every single thing that you're doing here is an on-chain transaction, and you can see and experience how this game feels on a rollup that is, I think it currently has sub-second latency, this one. So experience it, and would love to get some feedback on this. And yeah, if you want some sort of a customization for your game, so if you want to have some sort of pre-compiles that you are thinking of building, come to us, and we'd love to help you out. Thank you very much.